Thanks for joining me on the Listen Up Girl podcast, where I bring you LGBTQ plus news several times a week. Before I get started on my first story, I wanted to ask if you could please go to the description of this podcast and click on the audience survey link. I'm looking to learn more about who my audience is and find out what you're looking for on this show and my other podcast, Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay. It takes less than 10 minutes, and I really appreciate you doing it. But let's get into it. This is your home for the latest LGBTQ plus headlines, culture stories, and news shaping our community. I'm bringing you the stories that matter, the victories worth celebrating, and challenges that we're still fighting. Let's jump into today's headlines because there is a lot to talk about. Our first story is Michigan father files Title IX complaint over trans athlete. A Michigan father is pushing back against trans inclusion in school sports after his daughter's team played against a squad with a transgender athlete. He filed a Title IX complaint with the U.S. Department of Education, alleging that allowing trans athletes creates privacy violations and puts female athletes in danger, echoing rhetoric used in anti-trans sports legislation across the country. Advocates argue that the Title IX was written to protect marginalized students, not to exclude them, and say complaints like this reinforce misinformation about trans youth and unfairly target a tiny group of athletes already facing hostility. The Department of Education has not yet announced how it will handle the filing. An LGBTQ Nation reported that. Our next story is Cynthia Erivo makes Golden Globe history again. Cynthia is officially a two-time trailblazer. On December 8th, she scored another Golden Globe nomination for Best Performance by a female actor in a musical or comedy for Wicked for Good, making her the first Black woman ever nominated twice in this category. Cynthia celebrated the moment on Instagram, writing that it was an honor and the cherry on top of her journey with the role. She also used the attention to advocate for representation, telling Deadline, "Being the first is wonderful, but let's make sure I'm not the last. A win for her is a win for history." Love it that she got nominated once again. Next, Amy Madigan celebrates the queer love for Aunt Gladys. Golden Globe-nominated actress Amy Madigan is fully embracing her unexpected LGBTQIA+ icon status thanks to her campy villain role in Weapons. Amy plays Aunt Gladys, an eccentric, flame-haired fashion explosion witch, and despite being the film's monster, she says queer viewers actually like her. In an interview with Variety, expressed gratitude to the LGBTQ+ and drag communities for adopting Gladys as one of their own. She said the character resonates because she embodies the outsider, someone who doesn't fit the mold but stands out anyway. She joked that once drag queens started impersonating her, "You've made it," before quipping, "Don't tell the Trump administration, we'll all get canceled." She's not so wrong. Next, Girl Guides Australia stands firm for trans inclusion. As Girl Guiding UK moves to ban trans girls from its program, Girl Guides Australia is making its stance clear. All girls, cis and trans, are welcome. In a December 5th Facebook statement, they emphasize that their mission is to empower young women and that inclusion is foundational to that mission. Their diversity policy calls for equitable treatment, mutual respect, and actively countering prejudice. At a time when youth spaces are becoming more exclusionary, Girl Guides Australia is offering a model of what true inclusion looks like. Next, Sean Avery reacts to heated rivalry and the hope for an out in an NHL player. Former NHL star Sean Avery is weighing in on heated rivalry, the queer hockey drama that's become a viral sensation, and he thinks the show could open doors for the sport. Speaking to Rolling Stone, Avery said that the series' popularity should open the door for the first gay NHL player, if there is one, adding that during his career he likely played alongside closeted teammates. A longtime supporter of marriage equality, Avery has a history of LGBTQ+ advocacy. While he jokingly calls heated rivalry the worst hockey show ever made, He also calls it the most incredible gay hockey show ever made, especially given its graphic content. Love it that he's supporting that. Next, Pattie Gonia raises over $1 million on a 100-mile drag hike. Drag queen and environmental activist Pattie Gonia has completed a 100-mile backpacking trek in full drag, raising $1 million for queer and BIPOC outdoor organizations. Nearly 36,000 donors contributed, with funds supporting groups like Brave Trails, Queer Outdoor Expedition, and the Outdoorist Oath. Pattie wrote, "When I started being Pattie, everyone told me I was crazy. When I said I wanted to do this fundraiser, people laughed in my face. 7 years later, here we are." In a viral TikTok filmed mid-hike, she even directly called out President Trump's attempt to cut DEI and climate grants, saying, "I'm out here raising $1 million, and I'm doing it with my dick tucked." A queen, a visionary, a philanthropist in heels. Awesome. Next is Pornhub reports global spike in trans and femboy searches. Pornhub's 2025 year in review has revealed a major jump in interest around trans and femboy content, despite a political climate increasingly hostile towards trans people. Femboy entered the top 10 searches worldwide, with massive increases across categories, particularly among gay viewers. Pornhub ambassador Natissa Dreams called it a cultural shift, noting that trans-led content is now second most watched category on the platform. Advocates say the data highlights a disconnect between public stigma and private curiosity, and that representation in adult spaces and often precedes broader culture normalization. You know what I bet? If I had to predict, I would predict a lot of these MAGA people that hate trans people they say they hate are probably part of that audience. A big part of it. Next, Dana International condemns Eurovision boycott. Dana International, Eurovision's first openly trans winner, is speaking out after several countries announced plans to boycott the 2026 competition, calling the withdrawal violent and insulting. She asked, "You no longer want us singing with you? Do you understand how much hatred and harm this adds?" The controversy has sparked wider discussions about how politics, queer identity, and international art intersect, especially in contests historically rooted in unity and expression. And our last story today, a survivor of electric shock therapy speaks out. A man who endured electric shock aversion therapy as a teen is sharing his lifelong trauma. Jeremy Gavins, now 72, says at the age of 17, he was told by his Catholic school headmaster that he must undergo ESAT or be expelled, and ashamed in front of the community. The so-called therapy forced him to view images of men while receiving electric shocks, an attempt to make him associate attraction with pain. Jeremy says the treatment left him struggling with mental health for decades, only later realizing how deeply the experience shaped his life. His story is a stark reminder. While the conversion therapy is now widely condemned, countless survivors are still living with its scars. That is so horrible that they are still doing conversion therapy, and I hope this guy's story makes huge headlines. I want to have him on my other podcast as a guest. And that's all for today's episode of Listen Up Girl. These stories remind us that visibility, representation, and advocacy matter, and that our community continues to shape culture, challenge injustice, and push every conversation forward. Stay informed, stay passionate, and as always, stay loud, proud, and stay tuned. I'll see you next time with more LGBTQ plus news. Thanks for listening.